Hello, I'm Derek Smalls, and you're watching or listening or both to Rock Shop Live with Eric Broadbent. He's the Bent Broad.
You're watching Rock Shop Live, brought to you by Stewart Travel Guitars. See the incredible stowaway travel guitar at stewartguitars.com. Microphones for Rock Shop Live are provided by Rode Microphones. Now, for Music Gear Network, here's your host, guitarist Eric Broadbent.
Hey everyone, happy Friday to you all. Welcome to the Rock Shop. We are live once again, and joining us this evening, a guitarist whose material I covered for many years, enjoyed for many, many years, listening to Detroit radio, guitarist, solo artist, recording artist, one of the founding members of the Romantics, Mike Skill. Mike, it's a pleasure to have you here. How are you?
Eric, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how many times hearing your songs on the radio as a young teen, young adult, going into my, earlier adulthood, it just was a pleasure and just absolutely amazing. We'll talk about how big the band was. Like, not only, I mean, you guys did really well on your own in Michigan and the States, and especially other countries as well too, Australia. Sure. But Canada, you really hit it off in Canada. And we'll talk about that later on in the program as well too. Sure. But before we get into any kind of talk about guitars and songwriting and hits and all tours and all that kind of stuff, I was creeping your social media pages and I was looking at your Instagram. And if I'm doing the dates right, didn't you just have a birthday?
Yesterday.
Happy birthday. Happy belated birthday.
Happy
everybody
birthday
in our live
to me.
Yes, everybody in our live chat will give a happy birthday belated wish to Mike. That's awesome.
Yeah, I got to say thanks to everybody that said happy birthday on my Facebook and all that. And thanks a lot. And it was a warm day, a nice day with the family.
Nice. It was good weather yesterday because, I know you're in Oregon, right? Is that where you're at?
I am. I'm back and forth Detroit to Oregon a lot. My family is in Detroit. Two brothers, a sister, and I'm there. Normally I'm there like, if I'm on the road, then I'm not there as much, but I'll get back there a lot. Get back there in the studio and visit friends and family.
Nice.
And work. Yep.
You and I were talking off the air, and it's so cool to hear some of the stomping grounds that we shared. I told you where I grew up, for the most part in Chatham, Ontario, and you come through there with the band and on your way through to Toronto and stuff like that. I mean, because
Yep.
that's the thing. That's how I discovered your music. I was about 45 minutes away from the border, the Windsor Detroit
Right.
border. So what that Motown sound and the rock bands that come out of there, just were everything to me. Riff, it's been going on for about 35 years, I think. That was my big station, WLLZ, back in the day when it was 98.7. Now it's 106.7. Thank God for Detroit radio. I would have probably never have heard of you guys.
And when we were coming up, CJOM was around.
Right?
CJOM, right.
Yeah.
And with what's his name? I can't think of the guy's name right now. The DJ. We used to, we'd go up through Toronto is one of our earliest places we played when we first, right after we put out our own 45, our own single. We'd go up to Toronto, and there's that one stop, the last stop before Toronto, there was a truck stop with a hotel and a club. And
Okay.
bands used to play there and then go into Toronto and play. Toronto, we did some little clubs that had punk and rock, new wave and rock and roll on Saturday or Sunday night.
Yeah.
And slowly we built up, a following, and we played the Horseshoe, of course. And later on, when the first album came out, we played the El Macambo, and
Nice.
let's see, out Massey Hall. We did Massey Hall a couple times, and when the In Heat record came out with Talking in Your Sleep. Yeah, so Toronto was like our second, closely like our second home in a way.
I could see that.
We were always going in. And we did really well, and the song went to #1. I think What I Like About You was in #1 up in Canada. We got a gold record.
Yeah. Well, that's something I have listed to talk about later on, but we'll talk about it now just because it fits. So I'm not sure how much you know about over here in Canada. We have what's called the CRTC, kind of like over in the United States, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, whatever. Well, here we have the CRTC that governs anything, internet and radio and things of that nature. And I worked in radio for about 7 years, so I learned this for them. We have a thing here called CanCon, and the CRTC governs how much content can be played on the radio, and they
That's
want.
right. I understand.
Yeah, you know it.
That's right.
So I think it's around 65%. Do forgive me if I'm wrong. 65% of the content has to be Canadian, and when your music come out, especially with that record with "Talking in Your Sleep" and "What I Like About You," I heard that more on the radio than sometimes even more than Rush and Kim Mitchell, well, back Max Webster back in the day, things like that. There's so many BTO, all these bands that should have been on the radio, and you guys were dominating the radio. It was cool to see.
I think it was maybe it might have been something to do with the Detroit connection and CKLW, not CKL, CJOM and independent radio there, and we'd go into London. We played London and Toronto, and so we were around the industry, so to speak, up in Toronto and that. And one of our managers, our first manager, was Nick Panasico out of London, I think.
Okay,
he was a Canadian cat. And so there was a connection, and we were growing up. There was the Ann Arbor Blues Festival one time was in Windsor. Something happened, and they couldn't get a place to play it, do it in Ann Arbor, and they had it in Windsor.
Nice.
And, I went to a few of those concerts. They had 3 concerts over in Windsor. I saw Rush like way back when they first 5, one of the first up to first 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
Their first single, Fly By Night, was it, or something like that?
Yeah, and Working Man, I think.
Yeah, and it was a great time. A lot of music coming out of Detroit, going back and forth between the States and Canada. It was really cool.
So you are no stranger to Highway 401, then, are you?
That's right.
Yeah. People talk about the big interstates, in the United States, but over here in Canada, 401, man, is that route all the way up to Ottawa?
It's like second nature. I mean, my friend would drive up, and I'd sleep in the back seat on the way up, and then I'd drive back, and he'd sleep in the back on the way back.
Yeah.
We'd go to Toronto on weekends in high school and hang out and go to, I think it was Long John's Bootery or something on Yonge Street.
Okay.
We'd go buy boots or leather jackets and come back English that looked like, English style jackets. But we were always hanging around there, and I had friends there.
I'm sure you get the guys in the band as well too. Walking down Yonge Street, your first experience of it, you're walking down there, and by the time you realize what you've done, you've walked about 7 miles. You forgot where you parked, you forgot where you're staying, where your hotel is. It's just so much to see, and it never ends, right?
I remember Mr. Sub used to be open all night. We'd go there late at night. Long time ago. I mean, people were hanging out on the street back then, way back then. It was we were kids.
Yeah. It was such a different scene back then. I mean, I really miss it. I mean, just the energy that came out of the Detroit rock scene. And you talked about coming over to like my town where I lived in Chatham. Same thing as well too. I mean, there was back in the day, when I say in the day, late 70s, obviously, and I was born in 68. So I mean, I wasn't really hitting the bars in the 70s, but of course, like the late 80s, early 90s, there would be about 6 to 8, and we're talking a town at the time before it amalgamated into a municipality with the surrounding cities. There might have been 25 to 40,000 people in this small Canadian town, and we had about 8 bars that people would line up around the venues for. They'd go in there, catch a band. It'd be like a $10 cover, for just a cover band, and then they'd have a couple beers there. Then they get out and they go off, take a cab or drive reckless, whatever, and go to another bar. And I just miss those days of like the scene being so popular in Michigan. We've played Harpo's. I mean, scary place, but I miss those days.
Yeah, I mean, I remember popping into clubs, in and out of clubs like that. Back in that day, it was a real vibrant scene. Everyone was hanging out on the street, and it was all real good. It was all good. It wasn't violent or anything like that. It was all really just about a good time.
Yeah,
it was just Same thing in Detroit. We had a small area called Plum Street for a while. It was an art. They started. It was a struggling art district, and they didn't want it. They didn't want beatniks and hippies and rockers and that. It was gone. So, and anyway.
Yeah. Speaking of the small clubs, here's a question from Guitar Man. Asks, hey Mike, do you remember Paychecks in Lily's Bar in Hamtramck?
Yeah, we played Paychecks a few times, and
nice.
We did a video there. We did a video of Paychecks. Yeah,
very cool.
It's still there. It's called might be called Satyricon. I'm not sure. and it's more of a thrash kind of hard rock, really hard raw thrash metal, I think, type of place, punk, and so that's got good. In Hamtramck, there's a lot of clubs. There's a few clubs in there.
Yeah,
they're playing for music.
Just the other night on my show, I forget who I was talking to about this, and I feel bad I forget who I was asking this question. I sometimes ask it, so it could be asked a couple times. Have you ever had that back in the day, and even up to today, touring today, before the touring come to a halt? Have you ever gone to some of these cities where you think, okay, you've heard the rumors that it's going to be they got the best production, the best light, the best seating, all that kind of stuff. You think it's going to be the best gig in the world, and then it kind of flops. And then you go to some other places, you're thinking, oh man, we're playing in Boise, Idaho, or wherever, it's like, this is going to be horrible. And it turns out to be one of the best gigs you ever had. Do you have any stories like that?
Yeah, well, we, in the beginning, when we got formed, we formed in 77, and we were asked to play a show with the reformed MC5, and it was in Detroit at My Fair Lady. And we really did a great show. And so everybody was talking to us, and all the radio people and the news and the press, and our single came out. And from that time on, for the next 3.5 years, that's what we were playing those places. We were looking for the club, either the punk clubs or the opening up for a little bit larger act. And we'd be driving to outside Buffalo, and there'd be 12 inches of snow by the time we got there. Sometimes the shows were canceled.
Yeah.
You're on Niagara Street, it's just like, you're upstairs, and it's all wood upstairs, and it's hot as crap. And in South Carolina, down there, Winston-Salem, we played a place, David's. There was a gay bar that had rock and roll on weekends. There was no rock and roll clubs anymore. Yeah. So they had punk music. So we went on there on Sundays, played on Sunday, and go back home. And then or we go over to Boston, shoot over to Boston to the Rathskeller. And it was kind of like that in the beginning for 3 or 4 years. And then we started playing New York a lot. Kept going back and forth to New York. And we were getting noticed. We got noticed through a photographer in Detroit, Robert Matthew. He photographed all the bands, and he was friends with Cheap Trick. Oh. And, when they first came around, and we met them, and Bunny the drummer,
Bunny Carlos,
used to collect cassettes. He loved all the new wave pop bands, and so we gave him our cassette, and he loved our music, loved the music, and he passed it on to CBS and CBS Records, and we started getting noticed. So we had people come out from CBS. We didn't sign directly to CBS. We were on an independent label on Nympher. So we were always an independent. It's part of Epic Portrait Associates back then. Okay. A small label Nat Weiss had. Stanley Clark was on it, a few other people. Isn't that cool? He was the lawyer for the merchandise for the Beatles and friends with Epstein. What's his name? Epstein. And anyway, so we had our share of all those little clubs and getting there, and we were always yelling at our managers. We didn't bitch at the club, we bitched at our managers.
Sure, of course. So why are you booking me here? Why are you booking me here? Then they turned out to be great gigs.
We'd have a van. We'd drive in the van with equipment, and maybe another car sometimes. But it was just a long drive and a long haul. It paid off after 3.5 years. Really. Meeting people, you made sure you made the right connections. The management always remember their names and always remember their phone numbers. So, we were worried about just playing the songs good and having a good show, and they took care of us. So
that's right. Just building up that that street cred and the name and everything. Let's jump over.
You always have in your head, you're moving forward. You're never giving up. Never giving up. Never giving up. It's going to happen.
Yep, that's right. Because there's a lot of obstacles in the way for sure. And if you give up on that first obstacle, like like you're on a tour and you got 3 dates lined up and the first one's canceled, you want to turn around and go home, you never know. You never know what could happen, right?
You know it. Yeah.
Let's jump over and say hi to a bunch of people in the chat for a second. We got a super chat from Rob Lasante. Thank you so very much. We got a lot of people here to see you tonight. I'm going to go back to the top of the chat. Paul Sura is here. My beautiful Sandra Lee is here from the party line. She's going to be sharing a lot of your social media profiles tonight, from Facebook to YouTube to Twitter to the website, all kinds of stuff. So people will get some links for you tonight. Dennis Bro is here, says it's going to be cool. Edwin Crane is here. Jack Clark is here as well too. Landshark Mark. Karina is here. Nice to see you. Says, hey, Eric, happy Friday. Az is here from Arizona. 110 degrees today in Arizona. Can you imagine? 110 today.
Yeah.
What's your temperature today?
Hello, Mesa.
What's your temp?
What's that?
What's your temperature today?
We were earlier in the day. We're 67.
Okay.
The past few days it was 80 in the 80s, mid 80s.
No, 67 is
It'll
nice.
go right back up to 80s tomorrow, I'm sure.
Yeah, 67 is a nice little break for a bit. Yeah,
it's kind of erratic, but
yeah, I hear you. Ed B is here as well too. Guitar Hack is here. He covers some romantic songs as well too. Nice.
Yeah.
Very, very, very nice. And I'm going to talk about Talking in Your Sleep there, because that's one of the first songs I learned how to play. Actually, no, the first song I learned how to play, my brother taught me, was House of the Rising Sun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that was, me too. That was one of the ones. For
Really?
me too. Yeah, because back then that guitar part was something to learn. You know.
Yeah, the chords, right?
When you're beginning, that's something.
Yeah, that's a workout. That's probably a good piece of advice for young guitar players, because you're moving chords. You don't have time. Yeah. And even though they're open chords, it's one to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll throw out comics to someone on my Facebook. They'll say, "What can I do to get rid of callus or make better calluses?" And that all you can really do is just keep playing 2 or 3 chords back and forth all the time, and break through and really just toughen up the fingers, and one chord to another, add a third chord.
That's right. Pick up a bass guitar once in a while too. You pick up a cheap pawn shop bass. And the worse condition, the better. Get some bass with like strings this high off the neck, get that strength going. That can help.
Well, that's what I had when my first guitar was like a Tesco or Taisco out of Japan. It was new for $45. The strings were a mile from the neck, and I couldn't play it. I tried, and I gave up on it for about a year. And I used my brother's guitar. His was a cheap $25 Kent, but it played great. And I wish I had it now. People are rebuilding those things and refinishing. And when I first started playing, it was the 13th Floor Elevators had just come out, and it was You're Gonna Miss Me. And so the chords were really good chords to learn. And I was just learning at 10 or 11, 12 years old. So, but you just got to keep moving forward with it.
That's right. Well, that's good advice for sure. Never stop. And eventually you get that muscle memory, and you don't even realize you're not even thinking about it anymore, and you're just flying all over the place because you know where to go. And that's when the bands develop so well too, because they don't need to look at each other for chord changes. And okay, when's bass player taking the break? You just get it, right?
Well, see, when I was starting out, they were still using regular bar chords, right? Regular straight chords like the Ventures, like that kind of thing, and really straight ahead. And then as like when Hendrix came out and the blues guys were influencing the British bands, you had all these broken chords where you're broken up the notes and things are droning on the neck. The high E with droning notes, and then just like with Black Sabbath with 3 notes, just 3 notes.
Yeah, like a power fifth.
Yeah. And so there was a change going on there. I was already getting used to one way, and now I had to learn a new way. And Cream came out, Cream.
Yeah.
It was changing. It was a really cool time. I mean, yeah.
Well, you get Cream is a good example. You get a trio like that, and that's one of the reasons why I like Van Halen so much, even though they're not a trio, is the fact that there's no rhythm guitar player. Well, there is, but there's only one guitar player, right? And you got to fill some spaces. So that you just don't just play power chords anymore. You don't just play fifths anymore. You got to really open up you fill that open void. So very, very good influences there for sure.
Yeah, you got to have the third brain, right?
Yeah, that's right. A question from Rob that did the super chat. He says, or more of a statement, he says, we used to play a lot of romantics in the early 80s when I used to DJ at the club and bars. It was a staple Saturday night jam.
Yeah.
It certainly was.
Yeah, the song took off. I mean, it was never, the thing about what I like about you, I came up with the guitar part. I got to the rehearsal late. Early. I got to rehearsal early because I didn't have a car at the time. My mom dropped me off. We had been together for about 2 years, the band, Romantics, and got to the studio, and Jimmy was there, the drummer. And we all sang. We all lead singers. We all had song. We all did 3 or 4 songs in the set. And I played the chords. I go, look what I got. I got this tune. And it was a rehearsal studio. I go and walk in the rehearsal studio. It's all dark and one light on his drums. He was jamming. And I played those chords. And he immediately fell into it and started coming up with kind of a jibber jabber melody, and then throwing lyrics out. And we kept that up for 15, 20 minutes, and the other guys hadn't even showed up yet. And we had the whole song was pretty much wrapped up. I think we had I added the middle part before it was going to go into a bass solo before the harp.
Okay.
But that got taken out. We used to do that live like that. It would go all through this middle eight, and then go into a bass part, and then the harp player would go. The harp would come in.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it was just a simple really thing, and I always wanted to come up with something that was like Gloria or Louie Louie or You Really Got Me, or those guys, and that was it, and that's what did it. And we got a gold single from Canada. It was great. Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. So the guys get to rehearsal. Once the rest of the guys got there, what were they thinking? Like, this is great? Or
well, they walked in, they were like, didn't know, understand. Well, hey, what do you got? Blah, blah. And say, here, play this, It was like the bass player, like Rich said, he goes, it was pretty much written when we got there.
Isn't that something? And it's got to be, I mean, looking back, I know you've got the gold records and things like that, and all of the awards for that. But just
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but just to think back too, I mean, those songs are so iconic and they're a real piece of history. And when we listen to them, one thing I love about your music and other bands like yourself, like the Romantics, is the music is timeless. So we're in 2020 now. This is bands from the 70s and 80s and still timeless. We could be in 2040 and those songs will still be timeless. It's just nice to see that carry over. But another thing too, like you said, all of you guys were singers. I mean, I don't want to put bands in the same genre here. We'll say like the Beatles, and this is going to be a complete left field. Kiss. Bands like that everybody brings vocals to the table, and like
or the Kinks like
exactly.
Ray and Dave Davies, right?
Yeah. So when you guys were forming the band, I know it kind of happened, but seeking out musicians was a strong vocal ability something that was a requirement, or just happened to happen?
Well, that's the thing. That's that era right there. Everybody was in this kind of blinders and only saw bands that had Mick Jagger or Rod Stewart, or it was you had to have a lead singer, and it had to be a certain type of singer, and Jay Giles, for instance, and music had moved away from that melodic, Beatley kind of Kinks, Elvis, Roy Orbison, Eddie Cochran. Everything moved away from that because everything got heavy, which with Hendrix and Cream and Led Zeppelin, which was great, which was beautiful, it was wonderful. Music is still badass, and but there was a time there radio was playing so much of that over and over again. You just got Led Zeppelin, Kansas, you get Yes, you get to all these progressive bands, and they weren't even playing Humble Pie. I mean, they used to play Humble Pie, which was my favorite band,
sure. Steve
Marriott. They were so good live, and when we were going to shows, seeing all that stuff, but then. Everyone was kind of waiting for the next Beatles in the 70s, the next big thing. And then you started to see this thing trickle in, Queen and Mata Hoople and David Bowie and Nazareth and Sweet, and Suzi Quatro. And it was kind of like songs again. It was like short, it was like songs, 3-minute songs. And they had melodies to them. They're more melodic. And as that was happening, you had this New York thing happening with David Bowie went to New York, met Andy Warhol, Velvet Underground, simplistic music. And everybody was singing at the time, started to sing. It didn't matter if you could sing or you couldn't sing. It was more the music, the image, the sound, and passion, a lot of passion. So that started happening. And of course, when you move up to the punk thing, was really simplistic. And that was because of New York and LA having the punk, the arty kind of bands. And so it was all right to come up and sing and do your best and really just believe in what you're singing. And you didn't have to be Rod Stewart. You didn't have to be a Janis Joplin. You did. It was about just creativity, real artistic creativity, and a rawness and a passion for the music. And that's when we came along. And a lot of bands weren't doing a lot of melodic stuff. And when we always wrote songs, I always thought, when someone comes to a show and they leave the show, I want them to be able to hum or sing one of the songs when they leave.
Sure.
So I'm going to come up with a chorus that's going to not totally think it that way, but you're going to try to be creative and impassioned about it, and not worry. You don't think too much. You just go with it. But you want people to leave singing your songs. And I still see bands, they have 5 people in the group and only one guy sings, or 2 people sing. I mean, harmonies will sell your songs if you know.
Exactly. You can. So that's the thing.
I mean, not every song has to be that way, but that's what we did. We used all our voices, and we wanted to do it that way. We had to keep the song simple. We had to have a badass groove, and we were still banging our instruments like wild, crazy, going crazy. But with the MC5 and Stooges going up with that, we still, had that energy, that Detroit energy. Detroit's a dirty factory town it came from. Factory, dirty, hard-working town. Like Windsor, like some in Canada, some cities in Canada, and here in Portland, it's a working town and working class town. And you smashed your guitars, you played hard, and you left it on stage. You left all your passion on stage when you did it, when you wrote. Yeah,
if you go home and you don't have any bloody knuckles or a sore ankle or something, you didn't give your best.
Yeah, so it's a real deep thing with me. It's it's really something.
As much as I mean, I being a fan of guitar like the Steve Vais and the Eddie Van Halens and the Joe Satriani's. I mean, I love Yngwie Malmsteen. I love a shred fest at any day of the week. But there's nothing like a song, like you say, that you can just hum. And that's another one. You mentioned Queen earlier too. Freddie Mercury was notorious for that. Even wanted working with Brian May. Wanting these beats and these anthem type songs that, just you can clap your hands to a beat and you don't even, just the rhythm is there after the gig. That's very, very cool.
Yeah, I came up as a guitar player and I started learning bass. I go, oh, wow, there's a bass player when I was, kid. I was a kid. Mm-hmm. Oh, so I turned the treble down on the guitar and played 4 strings, right?
Sure.
Because no one wanted to learn the bass notes, right? So I learned bass, and then I started playing bass all through high school. I still played guitar, and that had something to do with the passion too, because I was probably holding back a lot of stuff. And when I played guitar, a lot of stuff came out.
Yeah,
for the band. But you had guys like Jack Bruce, and you had of course McCartney and the bass player from Yes,
Chris Squire. Chris Squire,
yeah, and then John Paul Jones. Yeah, you're talking about bass players that they moved around more than 3 notes on the scale.
Yeah,
and they were in melodies. They were moving up the neck and around the notes, and and now when you listen to a lot of music, I mean that's my only digression or complaint would be a lot of bass players just do 16th notes now, but it adds something when you to the underlying structure of the song when you have that a few more notes going in there.
Yeah.
But I don't know where I'm going with this.
Well, that's okay. But another one from the same era too, John Entwistle. John Entwistle.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely incredible.
Well,
that's awesome. Let's just go by and say hi to a few more people. Oh man, I met him in Yorkville, Ontario. I met him one time when I was. It would be the Grace Under Pressure tour. And it was the first, I've only met him, and I was able to high five Neil Peart one time. He was riding a bike at Joe Louis Arena. I was able to go like that as he went by. That was cool.
That's very cool.
But it was a nice honor to meet him, and Getty is an amazing bassist. Back over to chat, just going to say hi to a few more people. Karina says that was a huge record, nothing but fond memories relating to their music. And yeah, we're a little bit behind in the chat now, I am, but Guitar Man 45 says hello to both of us. Rob says hello. Let me see here. See what I'm missing here. Ed B says, I miss visiting Toronto or just Ontario for that matter. Border is still closed for us. Yeah, it's going to be like that for quite some time. And it's got to the point you and I were both talking off the air as well too. Toronto has changed, especially since you were there back in the day. It's become this metropolis that,
it's huge. It's huge now.
Kind of stressful for the person that used to go there from years ago. And now you go there and it takes you, 45 minutes to go a 5 mile jaunt, but it is what it is. I still love to visit it. 6-string Brian is here as well too. He's a bass player and guitar player. Let me see here. Dale Palmer, good evening. Mike Skill, all you good people in the chat.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, Brad Miller is here as well. We have from Florida. Let me see who else I'm missing here. Getting down towards the end here. So, and Rob, thank you for that super chat. It's very nice. Sonia, our friend and moderator, is here as well too. Let me see here. Continuing on. God Blessed America is here. He's one of our regulars in our shows here, and also on the party line. Zach Thong is here. Some names I haven't seen for a while. This is great. Really, really nice. Jimmy Biter is here too. And if I haven't said hi to you, do me a favor. Just tag me and say, hey, Eric, you missed me. And that way I don't miss you to say hi. And Guitar Man 45 says, Mike used to stop by at a bar. Don't remember. We used to play with Jim McCarty and Chris from Motor City Mutants. Does that ring a bell?
Oh yeah, I know those guys. Art Lysak and Sorter. Steve Sorter was the drummer. He passed away. Rest in peace, there, Steve. And guitar player. I can't think of his name right now.
That's okay. It'll come back to you.
I was going to say our first single was produced by Bob Segarini.
Okay.
And he was out of Canada, and he was I don't know if he was with Chilliwack. Is there the group Chilliwack was out of Canada?
Yep.
I think he produced them. He was like a pop guy, and so he helped us with, if we needed a harmony part and all that. That's where he came from. That's what his forte was. Anyway,
that's cool.
When I was getting at before was that we just it was just a passion. It was just really a passion for us to open up and write songs that everybody would enjoy and like and be able to sing to.
Mm-hmm.
I get loud and animated, but
that's good. No, that's totally awesome. Karina says, speaking of the Kinks, she met Ray Davies maybe 8 to 10 years ago. So cool. A friend of mine worked for their tour. That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
We toured with them. We did a tour with them on the In Heat tour when Talking in Your Sleep was out. We toured with them. What a great group. We were out with them for a month or so.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of us look up to you as, like the band, like we really, praise the guitar players like yourself and bands and band members like yourself as well, too. But did you ever have some moments on the tours where, maybe some idols of yours that you're just like, okay, this is cool. Now we're playing on a great stage, a great, theater or whatever the case may be, a great club, whatever. But it's like, I can't believe I'm playing with so-and-so. Did you have some moments like that?
Ray Davies is one of them.
Yeah.
Ray Davies and the Kinks, for sure. That's one of my favorite groups growing up. And I met Pete Best. Pete Best, the original drummer for the Beatles. I met meeting Ringo.
Nice.
Ringo Starr, and the list goes on.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Terry Himes is here in the chat as well too. And here's a question from AZ. He's asking, I know you've got a guitar back there that you'd love to tell us a story about. And this is something I'm going to be a little selfish here too, because I would love to see Talking in Your Sleep played properly. But he's also asking if you could show the first chords of What I Like About You. Would you feel up to doing and entertaining us that way?
I think I can.
All right.
Let's see. I don't know if this is a tune. It's
oh, nice.
Nick, is that on?
Yeah. And a Dan Electro there? Oh no, Rickenbacker.
Yes, this is a 65 Rickenbacker.
Nice.
It's like Fred Sonic Smith from the MC5 has a 12-string like this, but he'd string it as a 6-string.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same model, and so I had to have it.
That's beautiful.
I don't know if you could see. Thank you. Hope it's not too loud. I'll have to. Oh, it's got the tremolo on. That's all right. Talking to Steve was just what was this it? Wait a minute.
Can you lift up a little bit?
That's a D.
Okay. Yeah, lift up a little bit. There you go.
I'm upside down. That's basically it.
Nice. Well, it's nice to see it played correctly. That's great.
Well, I was in the wrong key for a minute.
That's okay. And how about
What I Like About You?
Yeah.
Well, Talking in Your Sleep for a moment here. I played bass. I came back. I was out of the band for after the second album.
Right.
And came back, and I had this thing. That's what I had.
Okay.
And then we just ended up. But that's totally like a Motown kind of a Motown. Yeah, whatever. But what I like about you is just it really just started. So I had that. I had this. So I needed a hook. I needed something to open the song, right? So,
yep.
So you got. So I figured. I can't do it sitting here.
It's tricky. No, I get it now.
Anyway, so I needed a hook, so I had. But, that's basically it.
I love it. That's great. It's such a pleasure to see it played, by the original composer for sure. And it's, simple songs, but yet too, when people analyze that and they pull back these layers, sometimes people look at that. They look at some songs that are simple on the outside, and like Van Halen's Running with the Devil. It sounds pretty simple, and you peel that back and just try to even play the rhythm. People struggle.
Yeah. Well, that's because it's that person's style.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to alter your style to their style sometimes, and so you got little roadblocks that you have to get over.
Yep.
And you have to break your mold that you're stuck in or whatever, and you have to kind of. It's good to stay open to listen to a lot of stuff, and you keep open here because I'm rehearsing when I'm listening.
Sure.
I don't have to have the guitar. I'm rehearsing when I'm listening to someone play. I listen to a blues player and I'm rehearsing as he's playing in my ear, in my head. So yeah, so you break down boundaries in a lot of different ways. Could I have that other guitar?
That's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I can't wait to see his other one. I know you got a story on this one. You guys are going to love this, the Telecaster. Working up a sweat playing.
Yeah.
Me too. It's warm in here too.
Yeah, this is the Charvel body, a late version one, like an older one, not a late one. And it used to look like that. And it's chambered, and it's got a brass tube in it, a brass tube, I guess that's right. Mm-hmm. And the neck is just a Fender 67 Fender neck that was really warped, really bad. And my guitar tech, Bobby O.D. over Dorston, he worked with Mick Mars, everybody. He's working with Jeff Beck now, I think. Jeff Beck, and he was on he's not on the Stones yet, but he knows all those people. Anyway, he had the neck. These are all parts. They were all parts laying around his house. The neck was like a bad road. He popped the frets off. He took off the board, and then he had to put it into a steam box, and steam it over the weekend and straighten it out. They clamp it and straighten it, and came out and straightened, and he planed it, flattened out a little bit, and put. I don't want to give all the secrets, but they're medium jumbo frets. So on a telly, when you put medium jumbo frets, you get more sustain. Sure. Because on a regular Fender, they're really thin little frets, and it sounds real cheeky, really rinky-dink, and it's just a country sound. Yeah. And so we put those frets on, and this thing has like a. Anyway,
I love it. You know what? I don't care if I get a copyright strike for this. I've had that happen. I've had artists play on the show, and I get a copyright strike from their label with the actual artist playing it. But no,
I don't want anything.
No, I'm happy if I get one, no problem. And a strike isn't a strike. It's just it's just it's a copyright thing. But I'll be happy if I get one to have you playing that and show us how to play those songs. And that sounds way better on the telly. It does.
Yeah, well, that one I haven't done much work on it, and it's the bridge needs repair. It's kind of low, and it's the strings aren't locking in, so they're buzzing.
Yeah.
I had it turned up loud earlier, and it sounds really good, but I didn't want to turn it up too loud.
Sure, no, I get it.
Anyway, so in my playing, I almost was a drummer. I was going to the store to get drums, and I ended up with guitars, and I learned a few beats. So I really have a percussive rhythm. That adds to the whole romantic sound as well.
That's why I like drummers.
Now I've collected a bunch of ideas in the last few years. I had a little studio at my son's school. It was a music room, and I turned the music room. I built a control room. They taught the kids music, singing and everything, and they used the guitars and stuff. And I recorded some songs there. I recorded a bunch of backtracks.
Oh, nice.
And finished up a lot of them. And I'd say in the last probably 10 years or so, I accumulated a good mass of tunes, and I brought them out. And Romantics were off the road, and I took them to Detroit, to Pearl Sound, and finished up a bunch of songs. So that's what I've been releasing, some of my own songs, and it's going over really well. I'm really happy. Not My Business. The song is just starting to take off, and
My Bad Pretty.
Yeah, and My Bad Pretty's coming up. Just got put that out. I have friends playing on it. People from Detroit. My friends in Detroit, for being in the band so long, it's like I neglected all my friends. So I call them up, and they helped me out. I did Detroit Music Awards, and I called guys I grew up with when I played with 17 years old, and Mike Marshall from the Mutants. He played bass. He played with me on that show, and Brad Elvis from Romantics. Rich played and sang. His wife sang backup, and I did Not My Business. Anyway, so I've got a bunch of songs now, so I started releasing digital singles, and I got some surprises coming up by the end of the year. I recorded with Wayne Kramer way back in release time, release days, release calendar. I released 67 Riot 2 years ago, I think it was. I wrote it over the last probably 10 years. I've been thinking about it. Finally finished it. And 67 Riots, about the Detroit riots when I was coming up as a little kid, and how that happened, and the turmoil, and a lot of cities across the U.S. were there were a lot of civil unrest because of from racism to pay to working conditions and all kinds of stuff. So bad, serious stuff. And so I came up with the song, and I sent it to Wayne Kramer, and he played on it. And he's from the MC5, my idols. Those are one of the guys that, like, how do you talk to him? You freeze up. You say something, and you hate yourself for what you said. But anyway,
you only get one opportunity to say something to him, and then you're like, oh man, I should have said this. Yeah.
Why did I say that?
Yeah.
But no, he's been really cool, and I actually got to play with them MC50 not too long ago in Portland here, and he had his guitar to my song, and I'm going to be releasing that coming up.
Good.
So give it all away.
It was about I think you and I have been talking for about 2 or 3 weeks. So when we first started talking, you sent me some links to the material, and which I started listening to while I was writing our itinerary for the show. I really like to get into the wheelhouse of the guests I have on. So that really, really got me in the zone. And what I think a lot of fans can expect that they haven't heard the material, and I made some notes as well too, like the My Bad Pretty, Not My Business, the 67 Riot, and we'll have links to all that material tonight so people can go hear it and possibly buy it. But I think what I can say to them is that it's fresh. It still has that. I mean, we're in 2020. It still has a vintage flair. I use a term. I don't know if anyone said it before. I call it organic rock. A person who can plug like a Telly or Ricky into like a Vox or a Marshall with nothing in between and just sound amazing. And that's someone like you. And it's for the fans of the Romantics from back in the day. It's got a little bit of that sparkle and DNA.
Yeah.
Is that fair
Yeah.
to say, do you think?
Yeah, oh yeah, you're totally on. I mean, it's gonna, because I come up with 99% of the songs
Right.
for Romantics
Right.
are my my little ditties that I come up with, and here's what I got. What do you think?
Yeah.
Try this, Wally. I'm thinking of this kind of melody. That kind of thing, and then it goes from there.
Yeah.
But all the parts, that when I look at your all that stuff, that's a good example. The song was D. And so I needed a intro. So it's basically D.
Love
It's
it.
just a Pete Townsend thing. It's a Pete Townsend thing.
Sure.
Like substitute.
Yeah.
So I come from that whole raw, I guess, organic, or it's kind of just a throwback to when music was straightforward, and there was not much in between. We had 3 effects when I was growing up: reverb, tremolo, and what else? Passion.
That's great.
Reverb, tremolo, and I don't know, fuzz tone. We had a distorted fuzz tone.
Yeah. No, that's great. And that's cool, man, because like today's players like myself, I have like all these pedals in front of me are now digital stuff because I'm hiding. It's like my security blanket. It's like, okay, look over here, and I'm going to go get my digital stuff. It's like smoke and mirrors, right? So I have mad respect for people that can do that. And I have mad respect for people that write songs for songs. I mean, it's one thing to be the world's greatest shredder, but really for the most part, it's usually the only person you're really catering to is the other shredders. And then sometimes they're there just to judge you and say, oh,
and they're usually guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's all about the song, man. You guys had some of the, and you still today have the greatest songs. I'm really excited for people to check out the new material. I think
I'll
you're
tell
going
you
to love
what, there's a lot of female girl guitar players now that are really good.
Oh, yeah.
Songwriting, simple, like my kind of thing, to all the way over to shredding,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's great. They're actually saving the industry in a way. The instrument industry, the music industry, because they're buying all the guitars now.
I know.
The girls are buying the guitars now.
Well, there's a couple of good examples, and this is what's really cool. Some guys might have like this little stigma. Well, I don't want to buy a girl's signature guitar. I want to buy a guy's signature guitar, and that's silly because I've seen there's 2 artists. I've had one of them on the show. Nita Strauss, who she's the first female Ibanez artist, as far as I shouldn't say that, for signature guitar for a woman. I've had her on the show. I've had Nilly Broche on the show, Jennifer Batten, Katie Cole.
She's from here. She's from here.
Katie Cole from the Smashing Pumpkins. She's from Australia. Let me see. I mentioned Gretchen Menn. Courtney Cox as well too. Big names in the women industry of guitar, and down to earth, humble, and they can kick our butt 7 ways from Sunday, and they're still cool.
Got like people like Bonnie Raitt on the slide. Oh my
God! Incredible.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
and Samantha Fish now coming up, young. That's the youngest generation now. She's 20 years old or something. She's really good songwriter. Like you were saying, you bring up Van Halen. The thing about Van Halen, they could shred. They can do it raw. They have songs. They still have the songs, the melodies, and that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
who knows what's going to happen with them?
Yeah, that's true. But a lot of that goes to your hometown there as well too. I mean, if it wasn't for David Lee Roth, and Motown had a big part of that as well. And I've said this before when I used to talk a lot about Van Halen. We used to have a Van Halen themed show. I said there was 3 secrets to Van Halen's swing and kind of their success. Number 1 was Eddie and Al's dad, being a big band musician, playing overseas, playing on the boat, coming over here, been playing, to survive over here. So there's the big band sound. Number 2, the fact that Eddie and Alex never had a bass player for the longest time, so they would practice from sun up to sundown, the 2 of them. That's why Eddie did
that. I did that too.
Yeah. Right?
We didn't have a singer, and we just played all day, all night, and learned to write songs.
And that's good because you fill in those gaps. And thirdly, I think one of the most important, I would never put David Lee Roth above their dad, because he's the top of the chain. But David Lee Roth bringing this rhythm and blues and soul and Motown music to the band, they would never be what they are today without that.
Yeah.
for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
I mean, it always goes back to something. I mean, when I was little, very little, I mean, I was hearing Elvis and Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis and Roy Orbison when I was a kid. I mean, my brothers were older and they had all the records. And I hear I'm 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old, stealing their records and playing them, And, it stuck. That stuff stuck. So
I agree. There's a super chat here from Metalhead Hippie. He says, just classic. Grew up on this. I remember first time hearing What I Like About You, smoking doobies and jumping my dirt bikes. Good times. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Probably some injuries, hopefully not smoking the doobies before jumping on the dirt bikes. Maybe after to celebrate a big jump. We'll say that.
The song was it came out at a time, you had the disco thing kind of was happening with Saturday Night Fever and all that. And then radio was still stuck on, like I said before, that one kind of sound, that over and over, Led Zeppelin, yes, Kansas, Led Zeppelin, every 20 minutes, that's all you'd hear.
Mm-hmm.
And no one hated the music. They just hated hearing the same thing over and over again on radio. And here comes these fresh bands coming with these fresh pop songs. Not everybody had a kick-ass drummer in like we had, and we had the energy of Detroit.
Yeah.
That's what made the difference for us. What I like about you was never like, I mean, we loved the Knack and Figers from Detroit, but they had a big push from Capitol. We were on the road. We were on the road working this thing, and we were on an independent label. We were on we weren't on CBS proper. We weren't on Capitol. We weren't on a major Columbia. We were on Emperor. It was good though. We got a great record deal, 7 records. No one does that anymore. Yeah, 7 record deal, and we held our own publishing. You don't get that anymore either. So so we just I don't know. That's where I'm going with that.
Well, that's cool though. I mean, you didn't have the push like you said the other bands did, and you carried that spirit. I mean, Motor City was the working town, man. I mean, like people. There was no such thing as a person without greasy, dirty hands, and sore hands, blisters and calluses from a hard day's work. And I think you guys carried that along with you and showed the spirit of Detroit, and it's so funny talking about the spirit of Detroit. I tagged Doug Podell today on Twitter. I wanted to tell him about the show here tonight because, I mean, I absolutely love that guy. He was...
Doug supported us. Doug supported us all the way, yeah.
Isn't he something? And it's so great to see him back at the helm at WLZ at 106.7. But do you remember? Of course, you'd remember this. I'm a little bit younger, but I still remember the show like it was yesterday. I think it was on WXON. I think it was TV 20 Detroit. The Beat. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Well, you guys were featured on that. I mean, that was that was before VH1 and stuff. That was long before. Yeah. Oh, I missed that show.
In the U.S. there were. I'm not sure about Canada, but I think. There were no rock shows. There were no rock shows from late '60s all the way up to the '80s. Mm-hmm. It still went on though in England and in Europe. All the shows were still on. The video shows. Bands would come on and they have a video, or they just play the video, and that went from the '60s all through the '70s and '80s. And Susie Quattro, huge with her videos on, all that stuff. And so we came out and. We were playing around Detroit. We had our black pants, our black and white shirts with the skinny black ties. Mm-hmm. And Doug Piter didn't have the Knack yet, and he was in the club watching the band. Next thing you know, a few months later, he has the Knack, and they're plastered all over Billboard magazine, and we're still playing, kicking ass on the road. We're, building up a following.
That's right. Yeah, earning it.
It's not the same for everybody, and as long as you're passionate and have your eye on the prize, or just an eye on what you want to get to.
Goal. Yep.
You'll make it. You'll do fine.
That's as I told you when I retired, technically retired, if I want to use that term, from performing live, and we're all retired from performing live now, anyways. But I mean, officially, I'm doing the YouTube thing, and that's why I look at it as well too. Sometimes you do a show and it's like throwing spaghetti at the wall. It's either a huge hit or it's somewhere in between. But my goal is never, ever, ever stop. And if I happen to bring in 2 people, like tonight, people are here to see you, and maybe 2 people that might like some of our other content that come and join me. We're now part of the team. Then maybe another show, we get 4 more people, or 10 or 1. It's just nice. You build that following, and then you just got to keep just as hard working. It's one thing to get them, but you got to keep them, right?
Yeah, exactly. One thing that we're leaving out a little bit is that one of the first players, I mean, learning solos and soloing on guitar, B.B. King was the guy to listen to because he's very simple and straight ahead, but a lot of passion. And that's where I started really learning more about guitar and soloing. And George Harrison was another one. The guy that played with Ricky Nelson, I can't think of his name right at the moment. All those guys from the 50s and 60s that played in the guitar beyond all those hot records back then, they're the guys that you listen to, you know?
Oh yeah. I would take 2 notes from B.B. King as opposed to 12 from somebody else.
Yeah. And then it leads from B.B. King, you start listening to Albert King and Freddie King. Yeah. You know, Albert King, Freddie. And then when Humble Pie came out and the Rolling Stones, they opened up the door to all the rest of the cats that you can learn from, you know? I mean,
that's right.
You know, I think I'm not always with a guitar, but I'll be listening to anything from jazz to classical to rock to blues, and there's always something to get out of it. You know, there's always something to get that you can add to your whole thing, your style.
Agreed, 100%. Ed B in the chat says, Romantics was my first introduction to rock music as a kid when almost only pop music was on the radio in the Netherlands. That's cool. And this is where I grew up. I love their mysterious, darker vibe. Got me hooked to rock. Well, that's very, very cool. That's a gateway for him into the rest of the music. That's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And
totally.
Part of my beautiful
Who was that?
That is Ed B. I don't know Ed's last name, but over in the Netherlands. Very, very cool. And says yes, he's loving this. So that's fantastic. And someone else says who said it? In Detroit, I forget who said it. Something about following in Detroit. I missed it. Oh yeah, Guitar Man 45 says in Detroit the crowd followed you for sure. For sure. Well, listen, I told you this was going to fly. The 60 minutes, I tell people sometimes 60-minute interviews, and they're used to doing like 10, 12, 15-minute interviews.
And we only just started.
I know. Listen, you have an open invitation to come back anytime you want. Keep those singles coming. I know we'll end the show with this. In 2018, you guys were just starting to embark on a big tour with the Romantics. 2018, all of 2019, and you were booked from what the website shows into late 2020. And obviously, the pandemic has made that come to a screeching halt. When it's safe to get back out there again, is that something you anticipate to resume?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be doing something in 2020. I mean, who knows, you know? But all we can do now is I'll probably start doing something online, some kind of little shows with friends or just myself or with just a drummer, and it'll be fun. It'll be something to give to the community and give to the music community, and just keep our minds off things that can get heavy. You know.
That's right. We all need it. We need it,
and hope for the best. And who knows? I mean, Romantics have. Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, Romantics have been around since for almost 40 years, I guess. And recording music, and it's wide open.
That's good. Yeah, keep your eyes on that target. That's like you just said earlier. Yeah, and it's a real pleasure to.
You know, I'm not going to stop writing. I'm not going to stop playing. I don't think there is retirement in music. It's always going to be with you. It's just whether you pick it up or not and want to perform or produce something.
Agreed, 100%. And I want to also thank you graciously for showing us some of those iconic riffs. It's nice to see them performed. I mean, you could go on YouTube right now after the show and search both those songs and find 700 ways to play them, 700 different ways. And then we saw the way to play it from you. So thank you for teaching us that tonight, too.
Well, yeah. I didn't do so good when I first started. But,
it's okay. It's all good.
No, I want to say hello to all my brothers and sisters in Detroit.
Please do.
For the props. I got a good lot of so many friends and Portland here too, and everybody across Canada. We were out with Loverboy last year. We did a bunch of shows there. We did a few weeks with them, and who knows what's going to come up. But thanks for the support, and stay healthy, be healthy, and you know, I hope we get through this. We get through this thing in the right way in November in the States.
I hope so. We'll leave it at that. But I know what you're saying. Let's all be together. Let's be safe. Let's be smart. And let's
love and understanding, right?
That's right. And the safer we are, the sooner we get back out there to get to enjoy music and concerts in a safe environment that, I mean, it's going to be, we said this with many guests, when we get to go back out and it's deemed safe, there's going to be so much music. I mean, there's going to be endless music.
I know.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
And just a good thing to our neighbors, Canada. We've always Romantic's always been tight with the country and coming and going. And I hope you enjoy the music. Please listen and spread it around.
We will, music. And we do. I don't speak for all of Canada because I can't. It's not my place to say. But I mean, if anyone else is like me, I mean, absolutely loved it as a teen, as a middle-aged man. Now I still love it. You know, so thank you for all the years of fantastic work, and we'll look forward to more. Don't go away.
Thanks so much, and good luck with the show, and thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Don't go away. I'll say goodbye to you off the air. But everyone, thank you so very much for tuning in this evening. I hope you have a fun and safe weekend. And just a reminder, we are live again on Sunday on our other show on the Helix Hour, and we've got a fun returning guest from Evanescence guitarist Jen Majura. That is at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, and we'll have some fun with that, talking all things Line 6 Helix. Thank you so much to Mike and his family for taking an hour out of their time tonight. Mike, don't go away. I'll say goodbye to you out there. Talk to you all soon. Until next time.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Eric. See you later.
Cheers.
Hey, you're still here? Eric Jr. here, reminding you to check out our full lineup of quality merch. Available right now in the Broadstash Boutique. Quality products and fast shipping. Visit broadstash.com today.
Video production services for Rock Shop Live are provided by Design 39 Media. Visit design39media.com for all your website, photography, and video production needs. Microphones for Rock Shop Live are provided by Rode Microphones.